We never learn, do we? We just never, ever learn. A Netflix original movie, Death Note, is this world's 5th attempt to use the Death Note IP in a live-action film. And it's one of the worst attempts yet, which, considering the quality of the 3rd and 4th attempts, L change the world and light up the new world respectively, that's just impressive. I understand that by the time this video comes out that this will be a bit of a trite topic to cover, what with the waves and waves of other YouTube videos and YouTubers covering this film in a variety of styles, but hey, gotta keep with those trending topics to stay relevant, right? Gotta bring in that YouTube money, or maybe I should just change my thumbnail. Yeah, there we go. Absolute quality. Million views easy. Plus, I just legitimately wanted to share my own thoughts on this film. I hope I can bring a new perspective to something for someone out there, but at the end of the day, I guess I just hope I can entertain someone. Maybe make someone laugh, you know? A YouTube video that's supposed to be a piece of entertainment? Hard to imagine, I know. I'm going to talk to you about this film on a more point-by-point basis. I'll be doing so because I learned going scene by scene and summarizing the whole story along with what's wrong with it via Your Movie Sucks video style it's a huge pain in the ass. And also, we've all more than likely have seen this movie already. I'll still be using that video style for other things, but not on things we've all already seen. That'd be a bit pointless. Anyway, let's get into it. But if you haven't seen this movie already, well, then...
Spoiler alert.
The making of an Americanized Death Note movie first gained interest in 2007 from various film companies in the United States. This was during the original airing of the show in Japan, wherein the English dub started airing a few months after the show finished airing in Japan. In 2009, Warner Brothers had announced that they had gotten the rights for the American Death Note movie, and they even had screenwriters and producers attached to the project at the time. However, there were many inside struggles. Scripts were dropped and directors left. This was all until 2015 when it was said that Adam Wingard would direct the film. However, thanks to the poor reception of Batman vs. Superman, Warner Brothers decided to drop various movies, including Death Note. But that was all until Netflix decided to pick it up, production started, and well, at this point the rest is history. And while on the topic of Adam, why don't we see the mentality he had while making this movie? To me, the thing about anime is that it's so adult-oriented. So doing my first live-action anime thing, to me it was important that you have those adult themes. So it's got nudity, it's got swearing, it's got a ton of violence. So I'm sorry Adam, but anime is specifically only adult-oriented? You know there's like a lot of kids shows, right? Or even whole genres of anime like shoujo, which is targeted at 10 to 18-year-olds and typically have idealized ideas behind them and not rape, gore, titties, or death. Or there's also slice of life anime, which can have adult themes in them, but are nowhere near your over-the-top definition of what being adult apparently means. Anime, of course, can bring up more intensive topics, and it's true that a lot of the acclaimed anime can have things like blood and death, but this doesn't mean that you should push for anything and everything adult just for the hell of it. Was getting that TVMA rating really necessary? At that point, that mentality just comes off as some sort of masturbation from the part of the director. Forget nuance and purpose. We have to push for unnecessary swearing and gore, and like a single pair of titties. That's honestly you going all out? A single pair of titties? Well, whatever. Alright, let's get this out of the way. This movie is not the anime or the manga. It's its own thing. Its own beast. Its own horrible, malformed beast. After this section of this review, I'll try to refrain from comparing this movie to the anime as much as possible, but before then, for this section, I'll be taking the time to explain the differences between the movie and the anime. I will be doing so by comparing the two cafe scenes, the one from the middle of this movie, and the one from episode 10 of the anime. By this point in the anime, L has already shown himself to Light, and like L in the movie, L in the anime is suspect that Light is Kira. L even told Light that he feels he's Kira. L isn't 100% sure since there isn't much evidence against Light at this point in time, But he has his suspicions. What follows in this episode and this scene is L getting Light to play into a mind game that he set up. L is trying to get Light to slip up and give L evidence against him, while Light is trying, of course, to be calm and see past L's game. Light plays it cool and calm with innocence, smile, and laughter along with the conversation, however ends up raising L's suspicion of him more as Kira. But at the same time, he raises L's interest of having Light join in on the Kira investigation, which is what Light wanted all this time. And imagine this, Light denies that he's Kira. What a concept. Keep that in mind. So from this, we can see that the anime has a great focus on dialogue, logic, and the building of the relationship and tension between Light and L. So let's look at the movie cafe scene, shall we? Okay, so we have Light just hanging out in some random cafe, reading a book about something or other for some reason, and there's fan service drawings of Ryuk. L somehow finds Light in this single cafe. L just hops up in a chair and basically flat out says, "Yo, how's like being Kira?" Light's response to this is almost immediately getting smug with L and saying something very strange and vague. Something that only someone who is Kira would say.
Well, if you're so sure, then why haven't you just arrested me?
L takes out a fork rather aggressively and shoves everything off the cafe table because, you know, you have to have movement and action somehow in the scene or else the audience might get bored. They start yelling at each other and Light says, "Well, if that's how it has to be," while giving L the look of, "Yeah, I'm Kira." So let's compare these scenes briefly. In the anime, we have Light denying that he's Kira and is using his intellect to try to sway the situation into his favor. In the movie, we have Light trying to strike a deal with L within the hypothetical that he just so happened to be Kira, but ultimately gets upset when L tells him off. In the anime, we have L having suspicion of Light being Kira, but he moves the topic away from that to test Light's deductive reasoning, but in reality, this is L's way to test if Light's Kira. While in the movie, L just straight up asks Light what it's like to be Kira. In the anime, we have Light and L remaining calm and collective. Light even tries his part with acting as he remains calm and composed and acts friendly about the situation. And in the movie, we have our characters getting all pouty and yelling, and it's really stupid. So what does this tell us, you're asking me? Sure, the characters are different in the movie and blah 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 blah, but that's not exactly what's important. It's not just because they're different, it's because they're just bad. There's no subtlety to the dialogue, no layering between what the characters are feeling and saying in their minds. All this is in the movie is the characters getting emotional and far too forward. L in the anime wouldn't have arrested Kira then and there because he wasn't certain that he was Kira. But L in the movie was positive that Light was Kira, but had poor reasoning as to not take any action against Light then and there. Especially with Light's dialogue and body language, it's clear that he's Kira, so why didn't L do something? What did L even try to accomplish by talking to Light in this cafe? To just get across that he knows Light is Kira? Was there any real point to doing that? This is turning into a pissing contest of emotion rather than anything based on reason or logic. All of this emotional bullshit just seeps into the very core of this movie and just makes it even worse than it should be. And that's disappointing. Right off the bat, the movie gives us characterization of Light, where we have him listening to his favorite band, Sperm Swamp. Judging by the look on his face, which reads to be inquisitive, titillated, and at the same time traumatized, I'd say that he's currently listening to the track Pussy Market Super Sales. A true masterpiece of our time. Immediately, this movie tries to convey that Light is smart. However, it fails completely in doing so because what it's showing us is that Light is doing other people's homework, but the homework is high school algebra. Some of the simplest things you will ever do in math. Literally just follow the simple instructions to get to the answer. It's really not hard to do. Plus, he only solves 1.5 questions in the entire thing. Someone just paid Light to do this. How dumb do you have to be to not even get your money's worth out of it? When he's not being completely wrong or spoiling the entire plot twist of the film in interviews.
No, I think they thought that the trajectory would be interesting because they've already done these, these great movies in Japan that are really faithful adaptations of the manga and the anime, and so Adam kind of wanted to do something that was just totally turning it on its head.
However, multiple videos and articles have noted that changes to Light in making him into a screaming fuckboy were necessary in order for people to relate to him more, stating that Light in the anime was a sociopath, and that Light in the Netflix movie was a more well-rounded character. Let me break apart this argument for you all. A character doesn't have to be just or good in order to be entertaining to watch. Here's a selection of characters that are popular and, to an extent, really aren't very redeemable in the end.
Rick Sanchez, Walter White, Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street, Big Star War Man.
Adding on to that, and this is my opinion, but of course all of this is, so I'm just going to say it like it's a fact, because it is a fact. A screaming fuckboy looking for pussy under the guise of love, but is just infatuated with a psychotic bitch, is not a fun character most people want to attach onto. This character isn't fun to watch on screen. You can't root for him because it's clear that he has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't have a plan. Why follow him or care where he ends up? He did not have to be a genius like Light Yagami, but since they decided to change him, he still had to be interesting enough to watch. But he wasn't! And that's the problem! So it's not just because he wasn't like him in the anime, it's because he's just a bullshit, stupid... Just like Light, we have half-hearted characterization of Mia right at the beginning of the movie. She's seen on multiple occasions moping around and acting all moody during her cheerleading practice. If you clearly don't want to be a cheerleader, why be a cheerleader? Also, the fact that she's a cheerleader adds nothing to her character, nor is it important later into the film. Plus, she's smoking on school grounds during practice, and no one says anything or notices, and that's not brought up again later either, or adds anything to her character. So really, you just gotta wonder what the point of all this was, other than to give the illusion that you know what this person is like. Also, spoilers, whatever. Mia's the killer. She's the bad guy. She's the one that wants the Death Note. But what is her motivation? To kill all that stand in the way of Kira no matter what? Ergo, she's just a psychotic bitch without any logical reasoning? That's not particularly fun to watch or care about. I feel like her being a psychopath was meant to parallel Light being a sociopath in the anime, but man, does this suck. Ooh, guys, I found something. I found her deep-rooted motivation. It's some throwaway dialogue she said, where she says, "I'm a cheerleader, Light. Nothing I have done has mattered before I met you." That doesn't make any sense. Just because you're a cheerleader, that means you don't amount to anything? Why did you decide to be a cheerleader? I don't understand. Also, her actor is a goody-goody Miss America.
Would you use a Death Note? Like, would you actually, like...
I don't know. I wish I could write down a whole concept in a Death Note rather than a specific person. Hate, or bullying, or bigotry, or something.
We have such a big
I don't know that I could write down a real
society
name, but you know.
Now let's move on to my favorite character from the anime, L. I already talked about how butchered L was in this movie compared to the anime. I don't need to talk about it again. Just focus on how he is in this film, as his own individual character. L in a Netflix original movie, Death Note, is a very
Very good. So...
And I farted. It was silent, though.
interesting character. Throughout the movie, he changes from a detective who uses his magical powers of being smart because we're told so and not shown in any significant way, into a broken down beast of emotion, one who casts aside all of his previous beliefs and forgets all of his characteristics that make him him, which by the end of the movie turns him into...
Like, I think there's a lot of weird depictions of detectives in fiction.
That one wasn't.
Oh, shit. Is that all the candy?
Wow, that is very...
a shit character. By the end of this movie, you're not really rooting for either of the major parties, Light or L, and you just can't help but wonder what could have been if this character was more restrained and would have had more screen time to stretch his intelligence. Or maybe I'm just misunderstanding his character here. Maybe we're all just misunderstanding his character and this is like the best character in their entire film. L, what do you have to say about this?
I think we're misunderstood. And I think the reason that we are misunderstood is because we are seen as those who blindly go after villains. But I think this villain in particular is one that needs to be addressed, and I am the guy to do it. And if I don't do it, then who knows what will...
Honestly, casting William Dafoe is probably the best idea this movie had.
It's pronounced
Willem Dafoe.
Not only that, but their approach by having Ryuk be a real actor on set and not full CGI was a remarkable idea. It really did make Ryuk feel like he truly resided in this world. And you can compare that to Death Note's other live-action counterparts where Ryuk looks like plastic, like a Gary's Mod model, like a true nightmare that makes me uncomfortable to see. Get that picture away. I don't like it. I don't like it. To like, well, considering this was for a musical, that's actually pretty good. And no, never mind. You lost me. Get out. But keeping the spotty history of Ryuk in live action in mind, this new take on Ryuk was probably the best attempt yet. There. I said it. I said a nice thing about your movie, Adam Wingard. Does this prove that I'm not a troll and I just legitimately don't like your film? I'm breaking my own rule here. I'm talking about the anime again. But in the Death Note anime, the soundtrack itself was its own character. It lived in scenes and was very memorable. Its presence stuck with you. It had a range of songs, like Light's theme, that of which plays perfectly into the feel of Light's character. This track is an at first pleasing single mid-tempo guitar that quickly gets turned eerie by a droning backing guitar's inclusion. There's also charming tracks like L's theme, that of which just screams deductive reasoning, revelation, and intellect. And of course there's orchestral tracks of epic proportions that we all know, like Low of Solipsism, which screams something about eating potato chips. But I'll be damned if I care to write a joke about that with any more effort than this single sentence, so moving on. The soundtrack for the anime was an absolute masterpiece. No, not that song. That song can fuck off. Go away, songs. You suck. Go away. Go. There we are. Anyway, as we were. The soundtrack for the anime was masterful. But in the Netflix movie, the soundtrack, it's abhorrent. The soundtrack in a Netflix original movie, Death Note, was a horrifying Frankenstein's monster of 80s soft rock and the present's generic forgettable beats. Nothing says morbid deaths, moral ambiguity, and mind games of cat and mouse better than pop rock. I get that you're trying to have it fit more with a high school movie feel, and what says movies' interpretation of high school better than the 80s? And what is the 80s if not The Breakfast Club and the song Don't You Forget About Me? But it just doesn't work with this type of story, especially if you would put a scene in your movie where a pop rock song would play over the two main characters falling and they might die. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. And you especially don't want to use a cheesy song like The Power of Love over your ending scene where you have your main character explaining how he Deus Ex Machina the shit out of the plot, and when another main character is breaking and entering into a house to possibly kill the main character. That would just be a silly decision. It's a good thing they didn't make a mistake like that. She's dead. She's just fucking dead. That's it, really. She's just dead so we can feel sorry for Light and maybe feel somewhat closer to him and feel like his actions are justified. It didn't work. It was just stupid. I know that ever since you've gotten the role of L, you've been bombarded with interview offers. So thank you so much for agreeing to do an interview with me, of all people, Lakeith. Oh my. You have quite the excess bodily gas, don't you? Anyway, the fans at home are all really wondering, and please be honest, we are all friends here after all. Would you fuck a whale?
No.
So we're here with Margaret Quilley, the actress of Mia, and we're all wondering the same thing here. Would you or would you not fuck a whale?
I don't know.
Alright, Lakeith, we already got the whale question out of the way, but now for the real hard-hitting question. Would you fuck a dead whale?
Yes.
Margaret, girl, talk to me, and don't lie, I'll be able to tell if you're telling the truth or not. Would you fuck a dead whale?
I definitely understand wanting to do that right now, especially. Yeah.